Breaking the chains. Why your past doesn't define your future. Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered who's really staring back at you? The person society labeled, the person trauma shaped, or the person you're truly meant to be? I recently had the privilege of interviewing Toyia Roper, a remarkable force of nature whose insights have transformed countless lives through her work empowering women to break free from their past narratives. Toya isn't just a mentor or coach, she's a revolutionary architect of human potential who has dedicated her life to proving that our darkest chapters can become the foundation for our most brilliant futures. Her ability to see beyond the labels society places on us, to recognize the dormant greatness in those who have been told they're broken, has literally saved lives and rebuilt communities. What struck me most about our conversation wasn't just her wisdom, but how she illuminates paths forward for those standing at crossroads of pain and possibility. The stories she shared weren't just inspiring, they were revolutionary. And today, I want to take you through what I learned from Toyia about the radical act of rewriting your story when everything and everyone tells you it's already been written. Here's the truth that changed everything for me. Your past is powerful, but it is not permanent. Let me say that again. Your past is powerful, but it is not permanent. We live in a world obsessed with defining people by their worst moments, their deepest wounds, their most visible scars. Oh, that's the woman who went to prison. That's the entrepreneur who failed. That's the person who had the breakdown. As if these moments in time somehow contain the entirety of who we are and who we can become. As if human beings, complex, resilient, ever evolving creatures that we are, could possibly be reduced to a single chapter in our ongoing story. But what I learned from Toya Roper is that these labels are just stories, and stories can be rewritten. In fact, they're being rewritten every single day by people who refuse to be defined by what happened to them. Consider Princess Lambkin. Society had a very specific narrative planned for her after incarceration, a narrative of limitation, judgment, and perpetual punishment. The script was clear. Once labeled as formerly incarcerated, her options should remain forever restricted, her potential permanently diminished, her voice permanently silenced. But Princess refused that storyline. She looked at that predetermined script and essentially said, "That's cute, but I'll be writing my own story from here on out. Thank you very much." Instead of accepting society's definition, she embarked on what can only be described as an audacious journey of self redefinition. Through deliberate practices of self forgiveness, focused goal setting, and radical self love, she began rebuilding her life brick by brick. Not overnight, not without setbacks, not without tears and doubts and moments of wondering if she was fooling herself. Today, Princess runs her own business. She mentors other returning citizens. She speaks at national conferences about resilience after incarceration. She didn't just survive the system, she transformed it into a platform for advocacy and change. And every time she stands before an audience sharing her journey, she's not just telling her story, she's rewriting the narrative for countless others who've been told their futures were foreclosed. When I heard her story through Toya, I couldn't help but wonder how many of us are living inside cages that exist only in our minds. Cages built from other people's expectations, from past mistakes, from moments of failure or betrayal that we've allowed to define us. How many of us have accepted a life sentence for crimes that, in the grand scheme of things, deserve at most a minor penalty? The truth is, we all have prisons. Some are physical, like Princess's was, but many more are invisible, constructed from shame, regret, trauma, or the crushing weight of other people's judgments. Some of us have been incarcerated by words spoken over us in childhood, some by relationships that diminished rather than expanded us, some by failures that we've interpreted as definitive statements about our worth rather than temporary setbacks on our journey. And here's what's fascinating: the key to those invisible prisons isn't hidden somewhere outside ourselves, it's been in our possession all along. We just forgot we had it. Or perhaps we were never taught that we did. This brings me to the second profound insight from my conversation with Toyia. Faith and self belief aren't optional luxuries for transformation, they're non negotiable necessities. Now, when I say faith, I'm not necessarily talking about religion, though for many, spiritual practice is indeed the foundation. I'm talking about that bone deep conviction that there is more to your story than what has already been written. That conviction that whispers, keep going, when everything else screams, give up. Dorcas Jackson knows this truth intimately. As Toya shared with me, Dorcas faced devastating professional betrayal, the kind that threatens both livelihood and identity simultaneously. Partners she trusted violated that trust. Colleagues she believed in undermined her work, the kind of betrayal that makes you question not just your judgment, but your worth. For a while, Dorcas retreated. Isolation felt safer than vulnerability. Silence seemed preferable to speaking up. But something within her refused to accept that betrayal as the final chapter of her story. Something within her knew, even when she couldn't feel it, that she was more than what had been done to her. Instead, she embraced what Toyaya calls radical acts of self preservation. She established firmer boundaries. She deepened her spiritual practices through prayer, journaling, and daily affirmations. She sought therapy specifically designed for Black professionals navigating unique pressures. Most importantly, she chose herself every single day, even when it meant walking away from lucrative but unhealthy collaborations, even when it meant saying no to opportunities that would have compromised her newly reclaimed sense of self, even when it meant starting over in ways that terrified her. Today, Dorcas runs a successful consulting firm. She's become a thought leader advocating for transparency and emotional honesty within entrepreneurship circles. Her story has helped normalize conversations around pain, recovery, and joy among high achieving Black professionals globally. What strikes me about Dorcas's journey isn't just that she survived betrayal, it's that she refused to let betrayal become her identity. She understood something profound: that faith in yourself isn't arrogance, it's the foundation of every new beginning. But here's where many of us get stuck. We intellectually understand that we shouldn't be defined by our past, but emotionally, we remain chained to it. We know we should believe in ourselves, but the voice of doubt feels more familiar than the voice of faith. We can recite self help mantras all day long, but deep down, we're not convinced we deserve the life we dream of. And that brings me to the third crucial insight from my conversation with Toyaya. Healing isn't just something nice to do when you have extra time. It's an act of rebellion in a world that expects you to grind through pain. Cassandra Hill's story illustrates this perfectly. As the founder of Holistic Living Consulting, Cassandra embodies success by conventional standards. But that success came at a devastating cost. For years, she internalized toxic hustle culture, the belief that rest was weakness, that boundaries were luxury she couldn't afford, that her worth was measured by her productivity. She ignored the warning signs: chronic exhaustion, deteriorating health, emotional depletion. She pushed through believing that's what strong women do until her body simply refused to cooperate any longer. The collapse was total, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And in that collapse, Cassandra faced a truth that many of us spend our lives avoiding. Wellness isn't optional, it's essential. Her healing journey wasn't quick or linear. It required her to challenge deeply ingrained beliefs about work, worth, and what it means to be a successful Black woman entrepreneur. It meant prioritizing holistic wellness through faith based coaching methods and herbal remedies. It meant establishing strict boundaries between work and life. It meant forming accountability partnerships within supportive communities. Today, Cassandra hasn't just recovered, she's revolutionized her approach to business and life. She's built scalable models centered on sustainability rather than overwork. She's helped hundreds reclaim their health while growing their ventures. She's been featured in Authority magazine as an industry leader, redefining success beyond traditional metrics. Her mantra, as Toyia shared with me, is profound in its simplicity. The most important asset we have is this: us. Think about that for a moment. Not our productivity, not our achievements, not our ability to push through pain. Us, our whole, healthy, integrated selves. This is why movements like Black Girls Breathing have become so vital, creating spaces where thousands of Black women can process trauma together instead of suffering alone. It's why boundary setting has become not just a personal practice, but a political one. It's why rest is increasingly recognized as a form of resistance. Because healing isn't selfish, it's revolutionary. So, where does this leave us? With three powerful truths from my conversation with Toyia Roper. First, your past is powerful but not permanent. Like Princess Lambkin, you can rewrite any narrative that limits you. Second, faith and self belief are non negotiable tools for transformation. Like Dorcas Jackson, you can turn betrayal into breakthrough when you choose yourself consistently. Third, healing isn't optional, it's essential. Like Cassandra Hill, you can reject hustle culture and build success that's sustainable, not sacrificial. But here's a question that matters most: what will you do with these truths? Because knowledge without action is just information, and information alone never transformed a life. So I challenge you today, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but right now, to declare independence from any narrative that has kept you small, to recognize that the story you've been living may have been written by hands other than your own, by society, by trauma, by people who couldn't see your full potential. It's time to take back the pen, to write the next chapter with courage, with faith, with a commitment to your own healing. Your liberation isn't just personal, it's political. Every time you refuse to be defined by your past, you create permission for someone else to do the same. Every time you choose healing over hustle, you challenge systems designed to extract value from human beings until there's nothing left. Every time you believe in yourself when the world has given you every reason not to, you perform an act of resistance. So stand up, break those chains, write that new chapter. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Not just for you, but for all of us. Because we need your full, healed, liberated self. We need the gifts that can only emerge when you shed the weight of who you were told to be and step fully into who you actually are. Your story isn't over. In fact, the most beautiful chapters may be the ones you haven't written yet. The pen is in your hand. What will you write?